Military experts provide frank assessment of U.S. shortcomings in potential China conflict. It says that the U.S. would face a few but significant hurdles if the military were to confront China following a Taiwan invasion, military experts told Fox News Digital. Unfortunately, talking about broadly and in overall terms, the Chinese have dramatically increased their air, sea, and space, cyber, and missile capabilities in the last couple of decades. Essentially, they have built up a whole lot while previous administrations kind of dwindled our makeups. And of course, now we have covered things over the last couple of weeks, like the UK and British's army basically saying that they're not even top tier. So NATO doesn't have the strength that they used to. And meanwhile, these guys have been building up their military like no one's ever seen. It says in some of the scenarios that could happen, we might well be at a competitive disadvantage initially because they have home field advantage in terms of their capacity to quickly mobilize local forces. And that's really important to the PRC. Four-star Air Force General Mike Minahan, head of the Air Mobility Command, wrote in a memo last week that he believes that the U.S. and China will fight in 2025, adding that, quote, "I hope I am wrong." Now, there is a lot of stuff to go over today. We're gonna hit all of the topics. We have so much today that we're gonna try to fly through some of it because there are so many headlines hitting us from all directions. On top of that, we have information from multiple Foogle fam, and they're all saying the same thing. Whether they are at work and they're being told something, or whether their family members are at work being told something. Military-related companies are told to speed up production, and we're talking like 1,000%. This is on top of everything else that is being said on the internet right now about war, conflict, and what is possibly going to happen very, very soon. Again, I hope that none of this is true, but if you look at kind of the signs all around us, it's pretty hard to deny. So we're going to go over that and everything else right now. We'll be right back right after this. Nothing in the show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. Going on, guys? It's Adam, aka Marf, and this is Marfoogle News. If you've never been here before, today is a live show, and we have more than we have had historically in any show. I don't believe we've ever had this many headlines all at once, so we're going to try to fly through a lot of it. So make sure to grab a second device if you can, or go back retrospectively, and you can actually go to our website and follow along. Now, again, we might not hit whole articles here because we have so many. If you go to our website, marfooglenews.com, you will see that it is all done by thumbnail. When you see what happens next, of course, there's no hiding from this. Click on that. It will bring you to this page. This has every single article, tweet, video, picture, document that we're going to cover here today, plus a whole lot more. There was stuff that couldn't even fit. Again, what we have already is barely going to fit, even if I hit just the headlines. There is a ton more. All of this stuff that you wouldn't talk about at a bar with your friends, again, is right down here. So make sure to utilize that. You can grab a tablet right now. If you go grab your iPad or your Android tablet, you can actually follow along and read these articles along with us. It is interactive in that way, and you can chat. So let's, before we get in back into this first story, and then, of course, we have tons of things going on with the handling of this balloon and everything else that just happened. Let's bring in my co-host/internet brother, Dex James. What is going on, and how are you doing?
Hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I'm doing just fine.
All right, good. Well, I'm glad I did a sound check. You were a little bit low. So, first of all, Dex, let's go over basically military experts are going over this stuff, and basically they're saying what we have said for a few years now, that our military has not been, a lot of the things have been kind of reduced at the same time that China has been building one of the largest militaries available. They have spent a lot of money, and it's actually not clear how much money they have spent. They have a public figure, but some of the experts we've talked to, and some of the folks that have put out what they believe is that China is actually spending about 25% more than what they are actually declaring on their military. We, of course, they have the largest Navy in the world. They're trying to build the largest Air Force, and they have basically stolen all of the designs for our jets, our planes, our Navy boats, all sorts of things. So even if they're not going to be exactly on par because they're using kind of knockoff things, they're still using the things that they have stolen from us. So unless we have all of the stuff that we have and they did not get access to, that is our advantages. And who knows how much we have. I guarantee you we have some crazy, crazy stuff in our arsenal. But again, is that going to be enough? Do we need to carry the rest of NATO with us as well? Dex, what do you think about the military experts saying that they basically think that they're stronger than they ever have been?
Well, they certainly are. They grow stronger every day. So that's a given. I think, the real thing is let's rewind like 12, 14 years and go back to the beginning of the O administration. We were pulling back on our investment in the military. We were reducing. We did have a good 4-year run there where we spent a lot and built up at least some of our equipment with the previous administration. And then this administration, it seems like we're giving everything we got away to other countries, whether it's equipment itself or munitions or in the case of money. So, we haven't been in a position of rapid growth for our own military, where Xi has been spending the last 2 decades just blitzing his production and building as much as he possibly can.
And that's something that we have covered over 5 years, and most people kind of ignored it for the last 3 years up until the last 2 years. Now everybody is talking about it, but our community and you and my peers have all been talking about this for a very long time. Dex, I have an idea though. What I'm going to do is we figured one workaround. If you guys watch the show, normally we have kind of a roboto thing. I am going to put you back on digital, and then we'll switch over if that roboto thing happens. It's actually pretty easy for me to do. So I think I'm going to do that because that buzzing is the buzzing is almost as bad, but it's way better than the roboto. So hold on, let me do something real quick. I want to make sure that we can have Dex pop in as much as possible. Dex, can you talk for a second here? Let's see. All right. So, there we go. Now start talking again.
We good now?
Yes.
All good?
Yep, we're good.
Okay.
All right, and then if it does go roboto, I can easily switch it over to that other line without messing anything up. Okay. So by the way, thank you everybody that's here ramming for Jesus. Sergeant Sedenko, Beth, Baked Alaska is here. Tomorrow we've got the Lifeboat in the house. What is happening? If you guys haven't checked out their channel, Tommy over at the Lifeboat and Wages World, they do a great job. Again, they help people dealing with recovery, and they talk about all sorts of very controversial subjects over there that need to be talked about, but people think are taboo. So make sure to go check them out. And then if you are dealing with that, also check them out as well. And then Bolo, we have Miss Jamie, 10 Day Closer, Preston, Johanna's Adventures, Ilea. We have Jaleesa, What is Happening, Chuck Norris. And then we have, of course, Twizzlers, CIA and multinational corps have handed military secrets and blueprints to them. I wouldn't doubt that either, with spies and everything, everybody, infiltrated into everybody else's country. But one thing we do know is the one thing that all anybody who has ever gone against Xi's country has said the one thing that they focus on that they are really good at is infiltration and information warfare and propaganda. Propaganda, everybody thinks of, Russia, but China has huge swaths of power in not only media, but in the movies. You have to realize it's the only country with over 1 million on the payroll, 1 million actual people that essentially their entire purpose is to be an online presence. So they can go in and thumb something up 1 million times and make people think that it's trending. Or they can go in 1 million times if you see something and it's saying, oh, China has done this, and a story comes out on them, and then you see 1 million downvotes on it, you'll think, oh, well, I think obviously people don't think this is true, when really it's their own country and they're paid online trolls, I guess you could call them. But now let's get back into the news. 5 burning questions from Congress on Biden's handling of China's surveillance mission in U.S. airspace. So the balloon ended up, obviously being a huge spectacle. It was a big thing. At the same time that this was all going down, nobody was really paying attention to much else. But this, again, everybody does believe that this was somehow very, very important. So I know that people are debating on whether this was a distraction or not. But at the same time, the fact that they were able to get this balloon with the satellite thing over our frickin' country and go all the way through until the very other side is absolutely absurd. They said it was an accident. Don't believe that. And I think that it almost wasn't an accident that it was let to go over. It seems like, somebody is in somebody's pocket or something. But Dex, do you want to talk about what they said about his response? He obviously said that he approved it on Wednesday, but it didn't get done until Saturday. Shows you kind of how much power he has with this.
It certainly does. So the questions that are being asked, and I don't think that they really have answers for them, but these are the really important parts, and I thought the questions were good. Is was the president worried about national security or bad press? Now that's probably the most loaded of the questions, but the other one was, why wasn't Congress informed? Like, they are a very significant portion of our federal government, and they should have been in the loop on this, and they're claiming that they weren't. So that's kind of insightful to hear. Was the balloon able to send data back? That's a good question. Was it able to actually send data, or was it only collecting and storing? Did it have radio equipment on it? My assumption is it probably had the ability to send data back, but that's a great question that they're trying to get answers from the administration. And also, what were they doing about other surveillance threats that happen to be going on right now? So those are the questions that they're asking, and they want to, I think they're really good questions. Oh, the other one was, why did they wait so long? But I think we've got an answer. I don't know if it's a good answer, but the answer to that was, this is a very large piece of equipment, and they thought it might have explosives on it. Some are now saying it did. And they didn't want that coming down over land if they could just wait. If they made their assessment and assumed it was only surveillance, they were going to let it go to the water and then take it down there. That's what they're telling us. That's why they waited so long. So, to be quite honest, the real question I would say is, why didn't you take it down before it hit the Aleutian Islands? And did it go undetected? Is that the reason why?
Yeah, none of it really made sense. And of course, the Chinese spy balloon carried explosives, according to some. So, Dex, they're kind of still arguing over whether this thing did. But if you look at this, and if you look at what is being reported, is they're basically saying it as it did have explosives on it. They're reporting it straight up. It had explosives on it, but at the same time questioning whether it did.
Well, certainly, and this is coming from, I believe, an Air Force general who divulged these details today, saying that it did carry an explosive charge on it that was there to destroy itself. It was 200 feet tall, weighed 1,000 pounds, and its payload was the size of a jetliner. So that's pretty significant when you think about how large this was. Now, that's a large payload. So, what else was involved with it being that big? Now, I know we saw some pictures from the ground that were zoomed in with cameras, and you could see a solar array. So that was probably the heft of the size, was all the solar panels. But there was a lot more there than just solar panels.
Let's see here. A couple of people said, who was that? Vicky Anderson says, been watching the show for 5 years now. Hey, thank you for being here. Somebody else said DEFCON 2, question mark, question mark, question mark. So there's a lot going on today. We're going to go over all of that. We're going to go all over pretty much everything that's being said right now. There's a ton. And if what I'm trying to point out is that, you know, for you that watch every single day, it seems crazy for people not to be worried right now. And that's frankly, look at everything. If you don't just forget the last day's news, there's been so much. And I kind of mentioned it on that short shareable video over on news, but you're talking about all of the predictions by all different parties. You've got Davos saying 93% chance in the next 2 years of a cyber event, a catastrophic cyber event. You have Gates talking about grid down scenarios, endemics. You have tabletop exercises identical since before 2020 when we had CV. You have George, Mr. Soros, talking about, of course, events happening, you know, the recession times 10, like the world has never seen before. You have all of these people saying that we're going to war. You have people talking about DEFCON 2. You have drills across the United States. You have nighttime helicopters, Chinooks, Ospreys, and Blackhawks flying around. And people are still like, oh, it's all good. I think it's becoming on the border of insanity. And I think there is part of us that just wants to go, oh, it's just a big distraction. But how much of that is actually, at this point, trying to make us feel better and trying to make us feel like, oh, it's not going to happen? One thing that everybody in this community argues about is whether something is a distraction, whether something is Ganda, or whether something is real. But because we are so divided and so literally conflicted, and we have so much information going every single direction, nobody can focus on the big picture, and everybody is down their different rabbit holes, and no one agrees. And that's because however much time we spend on this in a day, you'll find these 50,000 paths you could go down. All of them point to something bad, mind you. But right now, with this Chinese spy balloon, like me covering EMP and talking about it with people that, you know, experts on this stuff says, well, in the future, if we ever did see them do it, one way that could have possibly done is a balloon flies into our country, goes over the center of the continental U.S. and blows up a nuclear blast at certain heights. Then we have it literally happen at the same time as they're saying all these cyber events are going to happen. Mysterious antennas popping up on the ground in Utah and all these different places. And then you have a balloon with a satellite, possibly communicating and uploading thing. It's like, how do people not see all of this? And I get that there's distractions, there's this, there's that. But even if you look at the big picture and say 2% of this is true, even if 2% of what they're saying is true, how can people think that we're not at the precipice of something massive? The military group members saying that they're speeding things up like we've never seen before. And these are things that are, I want to say, very shortly, you are going to see on mainstream media how fast everything is moving. I believe it is going to come out very soon. And I'm judging on how many Fugel family members are telling us the same thing, that they are kicking up production like we're in wartime. They are being told we need to produce more everything because we are about to go to war. And of course, people won't believe it until it's on their front doorstep. And that's how I think that's part of the misinformation, is that we are so divided and so untrusting of everything that we won't believe it happens until it does. And that's kind of the same thing as like, don't fix it until it's broken, right? The prepper mindset is to prepare, even if that 0.1% thing is going to, even if it's very unlikely, we prepare for it, we think about it. In the same way that Navy SEALs and military and government and all of these other things, they practice and do drills for things, not because they absolutely 100% know they're going to happen, because it's a probability. And guess what happens? Who's going to win? The more prepared side is going to win. The side that practiced more. Things become muscle memory. The reason why when we had an earthquake a couple years ago that my family and I were able to get out in 15 seconds, when the house started shaking is because we practiced it. If we didn't practice it, we would be, where's the bag? Where's this? Where's that? If you don't practice these things, they're not going to be second nature. It's just like practicing anything else. And again, I think it's to the point where people need to start looking at these plans and not be freaked out the whole time. Just practice it, so then you're not afraid when anything like this happens. I mean, you see in the movies, like when it ends or how it ends, it's like, they're sitting in the 15th floor and a jet flies by and you got Forrest Whitaker saying, yeah, this is not normal. It's like that's happening right now. People are on their 10th floor stories and there's Blackhawks flying by and people are still saying, oh yeah, no, nothing's going on. They're talking about grid down more than ever before. They're talking about cyber events more than ever before. And now there's actual excuses we can see of why another country would hit us with that kind of thing. They're painting a picture. And frankly, I think that it doesn't matter what I think. Everybody's got their own opinion on this. But I just want to say, I believe we are very, very close. They're saying 2025. It just, a couple weeks ago, everybody was saying 2027. In a couple more weeks, is it going to be 2024? And then in a month, is it going to happen? This is the kind of stuff that goes through all of our brains. Dex, let's just hit real quick the next two ones with balloon incident reveals more than spying as competition with China intensifies. Obviously, this could be taken as Ganda and that the American public are now being pushed against China, which China's been doing for 3 or 4 years. They've been pushing their citizens heavily, basically having them look at the United States as an enemy and that basically we are the worst thing out there and we actually already attacked them according to all of their mainstream media. The Global Times, the People's Daily, the Shenwen, they have told China that we not only created but attacked them with the CV. So that was 2019 or 2020 that they said that. And I'll try to attach that. Dex, with the China fumes after the U.S. pops and then the previous piece, what do you think about all that's being said?
Well, in addition to that, they've also said there was one 4 months ago that crashed off the coast of Hawaii. They've also said there was 2 in the previous administration that came over parts of our land. Now, the previous administration came out and said, no, it never happened. But I think what that means is, no, he was never told, because it's just now coming out that they apparently have done this before, and it's just never been surfaced to anyone. Potentially is the story we're hearing, which might explain why the previous administration said, no, it never happened. I never heard of it. And it maybe actually did. So this is not the first time. It probably won't be the last time. And of course, we also had the other reports of other balloons, at least one more that was confirmed by our Pentagon down in Latin America. So I don't know what the outcome of that is. Of course, G is going to be very upset, and he's pushing back and saying we're overreacting by taking down their civilian, craft that was, just went awry. And of course they would do that. That's their MO. That's the standard operating procedure, is to point the finger back at us and make us feel bad for what we did. But we didn't do anything. They're the ones who came on our land, and that shouldn't have ever happened, or in our airspace, I should say.
No, and as far as them fuming over this, it just seems to the average person, it's like, why don't they? I guess as a regular person, it's like, why don't the government call China's government, say, hey, this thing, handle it, and then have them handle it right when it gets off of our waters or something, or there's something that's not right here. It just doesn't seem if they had some sort of control over, tell them to put it up, put it down, or to lower it. If they said it was a civilian airship and that it did have some sort of basic controls, they're saying it had no controls. Meanwhile, they know that this thing could go either up or down. Why didn't they tell China just to bring it down softly and to bring it down wherever, safe, right? That's what doesn't make sense about this. And a lot of people saying that this is a distraction, they very may well be right. But at the same time, we don't know who is in this admin. We don't know who is in their pocket. We don't know who is turning a blind eye to things. We do know that one of the main military guys said that he would call Xi if T-Man was going to do a nuke on him. Do you guys remember that? That was Milley, right? wasn't it Milley that said he was going to call?
Yes.
Yeah, and he's still somehow
Still in charge.
Still in charge. This guy said that if we, for some reason, when tensions got hot with T-Man, that if he was going to, and this is all around the BS kind of thing, that T-Man was going to go out with a bang and nuke everybody around the 4th or something, or right before. It was like right before and after the 6th happened. This guy called them and said, don't worry, if we're going to attack you, I'll give you a heads up first. Talked to his equivalent in the Chinese military and said, don't worry, if we were ever to like first strike you, I would call you beforehand and give you a heads up. That was considered treasonous. That was considered all sorts of things by the public standard. Everybody's like, what the hell? But half of the public was like, yeah, cheer him on, like, because this guy's going to get us into a war. Meanwhile, during that time period, we didn't have any conflicts. The second we got into this new admin, it's like everybody blames, it was because of all the stuff that happened beforehand. And there was literally nothing during that whole 4 years. And then all of a sudden now we have World War III on our hands. This is what was rumored going to happen if the previous woman president was going to win. If Hillary won, everybody rumored that this was all going to start if she got into place. And somehow this random celebrity out of nowhere, rich dude, got into the office, right? So there's been things going on for years, and this stuff has all been rumored. And what freaks me out is that we talked about this way back in 2000s, 2010s, and this has been rumored, and now all of these rumors are coming true. And it's now after T-Man. And of course, the whole T-Man transition into President B, that's a whole nother story. I mean, there's big powers at play here. This is the biggest powers, the biggest money, the people that are literally in charge of the world that we don't even know their names. Things are happening right now. And as a civilian, people need to start waking up to that it might be a sci-fi movie in real life, that it might be that you need to form some tinfoil into a hat, and you might need to start looking around you. So, I mean, this is getting nuts. Even as somebody who covers this stuff, I am blown away by all of this. And then before we talk about Turkey, we're going to go into Canada's deploying military aircraft over Haiti. We have plots to go after the grid. We have the large-scale 10-day plan by the 16th. Apparently, Russia's planning on mobilizing and doing a huge attack. We'll talk about all of this here in just a second. Before we do, though, I want to let you guys know, if you haven't already, make sure to go over and check out EMP Shield. If you actually want to protect your cars and your trucks, your four-wheelers, pretty much any device that you want to keep running after an electromagnetic pulse or an EMP, then get one of these on it. These are really easy to wire in, especially to your car. It takes about 15 minutes to wire in, and it can ground the signal of an EMP or a CME, a Carrington Level Plus event, happens. This would ground the signal in 500 trillionths of a second before it's able to fry your device. Now, they also make one for your home. That one you do have to get a licensed electrician to do, but once it's wired into your home, it can protect everything that is plugged into the wall within 250 feet. This is the same company that is outfitted since T-Man's era. When he did that executive order, they got called up by DHS, DOD. Now they are officially on the DEMSO team helping the Texas grid basically redo everything. So again, go over to marfooglenews.com/EMP because they're going to protect themselves first. We're years out from being anything less than super vulnerable. So if you want to be able to bug out or be able to get home to bug in, then make sure to get one of these on your vehicles. Again, that's marfooglenews.com/EMP, and you'll get $50 off per device, and you'll be helping our independent news. All of our affiliates are products that we think will either save your life, make your life better, make it more comfortable, or help you in any kind of situation, including storms and blackouts, grid down scenarios, and everything else. So go over and check it out. Thank you for supporting us through this, and you're getting a huge discount at the same time. Always stacks on top of any sale they do. Now this number is actually way higher now. More than 2,300 people perished. The last thing I saw was 3,800, I think. But
We're now at 4,300.
4,300. So it keeps going up. A lot of folks in our community, at least, and especially, since we have talked about how this may be alterable, have talked about, it was crazy that just the day before we were talking about how Turkey was basically blocking different NATO requests and, pushing people out. So a lot of people got some crazy ideas. Either way, this was something that I believe a lot of folks are saying that Dutchsin's actually called, that he got this right as far as this huge earthquake in Turkey. Now, anything over 7 is massive. Anything's over 6 is big, but it goes up exponentially. So when you're talking about a couple points off of an 8.0, this is a very, very large earthquake, over a minute long. At 7.8, I believe you're getting into the 2-minute mark type thing. I mean, imagine, sitting there for 2 minutes with such a horrendous earthquake like this. This happened. Buildings crumbled. This is a giant one. I mean, we had millions of dollars of damage here, and it was like a 6.3, and then some said it got up to a 6.7, and each point is exponentially bigger. From 7 to 8, it's a giant jump, and it just keeps going up. From 8 to 9, it's like it's unprecedented. It's like 1,000 times stronger. So this was a big, big earthquake. And of course, the timing of it is just unreal. Dex, as far as there's certain updates around this, but they said that the tremors were powerful enough to be felt in Greenland.
That's correct. Apparently, they felt them that far away. This is massive. I mean, this is going to be covered for days. It's going to take them a long time to get through all of this rubble, and get to the actual potential survivors, and find rescue for them. I think this is as bad as it gets. I think outside of adding tsunamis into the mix here, this is pretty massive. And it affected 2 countries directly, both Turkey and Syria, right next door there. They both hit it. But of course, as it says here, the tremors were felt pretty far away because of the size.
Yep. And as far as that, so I guess all of those elites that are camping out in their bunkers in Greenland, they may have even gotten a little underwear change there. And then Buffalo, New York area is hit with the strongest earthquake in 40 years, which, by the way, there was comments about the Ohio earthquake as well. It seems like there is a lot more in the news about earthquakes and activity. Again, a good person to follow would be Dutchsin's. You kind of have to follow him around depending on what's going on with him, because he has there's a lot of controversy over some of the groups that have gone after him. Some countries have gone after him because of what he says, but a lot of folks believe in that guy. A 3.8 magnitude earthquake struck Monday morning near Buffalo, New York, the strongest recorded in the area in 40 years. In over 4 decades, they actually had close to a 4. Now, it's not the size, because anybody in California is like 4. We get those. I have my coffee to a 4.0, right? But the area is why people are really looking at this and the strength of it in that area. One thing that, of course, is still being talked about, and something that quickly was forgotten, was this whole talk about the inner core stopping, or the Earth's core stopping. Now, there's debates about that in our community. Obviously, you have Ben from Suspicious Observers saying that a lot of people got that wrong, that it actually slowed down. It didn't exactly stop. About it reversing, he says he didn't believe that. So a lot of people were torn about that. But either way, one thing he pointed out is that the poles and the shifting of the poles, that is still going on. And there's some really weird stuff going on right now with the Earth. We've had some really weird phenomena with the Earth itself, as far as some of the weird events. People have been hearing mystery booms underneath their houses for now years. And I just wonder if it has something to do with all of this weird stuff, right? As far as seismic activity, that could be related to poles and things like that. A lot has been talked about in the last couple of weeks. If you guys did not see the Y-Files show on basically the Adam and Eve story, there's a whole rabbit hole there with the Adam and Eve story and Thomas Chan. But there's a lot more folks that are kind of brought into the loop on this since a few very viral videos have been talking about this, especially since the Earth core story came out, whether it be true or not. It seems like there's every direction you look, there's some sort of cataclysm possible there. If you don't know about that story, we can try to attach the Adam and Eve story, but man, it is freaky. And if it is at all true, again, it was a book wrote by Thomas Chan that based its theories on people like Charles Hapgood and others, essentially saying that cataclysms have happened in a cyclical nature and that we are overdue for the next one, that the Earth would basically all of a sudden shift, it would stop, and the 1,000-mile-per-hour winds would keep going, and it would basically destroy most life on Earth. What's even freakier is recently, what's this Full Send podcast, Elon Musk actually went on there and mentioned this, and then sent a whole flurry of people speculating on what he knows, including other experts going on to Joe Rogan and talking about this. It's a huge subject as far as there's a lot of weird actual stuff that they can look at and say a lot of this stuff happened. They can also debunk some of it, but there's a lot of really big questions around earthquakes, seismic activity, pole shift, and of course, what's going on with the sun and everything else. What do you guys think about this? And if you are knowledgeable about this, please let us know. I'd love to have you call in on our next call-in. Again, today is not. This whole last week we did not have call-ins, but if you have information about this, please let us know. I'd love to have you on the show. Or comment down below. Put your comment about what you think about what is going on right now down in the comments. And then Dex, the Interpol's secret virtual headquarters as police plan to hunt criminals in the metaverse.
Yeah, this is so, just when you thought Zuck's meta as failing and not going anywhere, we now have Interpol is getting involved and is actually setting up basically, I guess, virtual police that are going to be looking for people and using the metaverse to actually find them, or maybe find them within the metaverse. So kind of a strange, I thought it was really strange when I saw this, but yeah, they just like everyone else, I guess, is sort of finding their way into the metaverse, and they are looking at a way of using this to find and track criminals.
To think that one comment said that the metaverse will be a great success. I don't want it. I'm not a fan of Zuckerberg, and I'm not a fan of Facebook, but I agree with you, and I think it's because they have set it up. They've known for years that this is going to be the future. Some very ominous quotes by Elon and others have said that this is what is next. And when we went through CV and we're all trapped at home, a lot of us saw how that actually could succeed. It's very freaky to think about. Thank you, Lola Cafe. I appreciate your support last show, and I believe I actually missed you. Lola Cafe, thank you for your support on that last show. Carol McLean does the noob emoji. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Blissfully says, hi, Adam and Dex. Thanks for all your hard work. The mixer is causing Roboto. Probably a faulty capacitor. Thank you, Blissfully. And I pretty much, yeah, I actually agree with you. I just have to wait and get another mixer. Adam, please ask your friends at EMP Shield how much to harden one state. Or if there's too much, we'll start with one county. Stephen McMahon, we've already gone over, other people have asked that same question. There is one county that is already hardened, and we talked about that pretty recently, probably about 4 or 5 months ago. But it is a lot, but it's not as much as what we've sent to UKR. I think we probably could have done the whole country for what they just sent to somebody else's country. It's not about that. It's about their priorities. And it's just like we've said many times before, their priorities are don't fix it until it's broken. And that's something that has plagued us for a very long time. And then Celtic Warrior, and I don't know if you could do an exact price because their stuff for the government is a lot on a bigger scale. They have They pretty much everything they've done for the government on the device side, those are all pretty much, classified different devices because other countries are adversaries. They don't want them to get that stuff either. And then Celtic Warrior, thank you for the super sticker there. Says wrecked. And then Marky Sparky, thank you so much for the support, and thank you for supporting Independent. What do you guys think about Interpol walking around in the metaverse? It's pretty creepy, if you ask me. And then Major Leap in the Bird V threatens yet another demic. I don't normally give these too much credence, but with all of the different quotes by the really, really influential, scary people that nobody likes, it is kind of freaky. And I have personally gone with my family to the zoos over the last year, and multiple zoos have actually closed down their entire bird exhibits because of one thing or another. But it seems like, the public doesn't really get to know a lot of what is actually happening. It says the same highly pathogenic bird virus that's killed tens of millions of chickens and other birds over the past year has got a lot closer to infecting people too. It says an unusual outbreak of the H5N1V in minks, relatives of weasels at a Spanish fur farm last fall, also exposed the farm staff to the V, and swift action by health authorities helped prevent any human infections, it says this time. But the bird cough isn't going away, and H5N1 continues to circulate in domestic and wild birds, causing millions of animal deaths and tightening the supplies of eggs. It also is getting closer and closer to the human population. This avian cough has the potential to become a major problem to humans. Adele, a professor at pathobiological sciences at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, told the Daily Beast. It says it might be a matter of time before H5N1 achieves large-scale zoonosis and makes a leap to human species. If and when that happens, we could have yet another major crisis on our hands. On the top of the CV demic, worsening seasonal RSV, the occasional monkeypox flare-up, and the annual cough outbreaks. So I want to point out that DHS document that came out about a year and a half ago, and it was asking for companies to come up with new ways. Dex, I don't know if you can, and the chat can help me too. Do you remember the piece that asked the small companies to come up with a mass casualty tracking system, or a mass fatality tracking system, and it also had a detectors that they wanted to have basically countrywide that would have some sort of detectors for some sort of virus that had a zoonotic propensity. Basically, it would go, something that would detect something that would go from animals to humans. Do you remember that, Dex? And I'm trying to remember what they called it. But that was one of these things that they needed in a very big hurry. You remember?
I do remember it. I don't remember what they called it. Your description was correct. The zoonotic propensities and the mass fatality tracking systems. They were part of it. I want to say it was a defense research. It was DARPA's investment in small businesses or something like that. They were looking for people to build these types of things.
Well, it's pretty wild, and as far as the other things on that list, it was kind of telling. It was like it painted a picture of this future of some sort of catastrophic event happening. I'll try to. Can we try to find that document? We should just have that just on every night's show, because I've been using it all week this week, and that same document talked about even a broadband communication that did not require cell towers in the case of an emergency. It talked about all sorts of radioactive detectors that could hook up to a cell phone. I mean, they're painting a very specific picture. And then U.S. charges neo-Nazi leader in plot to attack power stations. It's like one thing after another. Real quick, I want to remind you guys, if you talking about power grid and everything else, highly recommend going and getting yourself a generator. In general, generators, gas or solar, are both great. They both have their pros. They both have their cons. But the solar generators have huge pros as far as you don't have to buy $5 a gallon gas for them, and you also don't have to deal with the sound factor. If you're trying to go stealth, the last thing you need is a gas generator that's heard from 3 blocks away in an SHTF situation. The Kodiak X2 is one of their newest and greatest all built-in-one solar generators from Energy. Energy is the brand that everybody wants right now. Again, there was a waiting list for the Flex 1500 that got up to 6 months long. That is not because, again, it's not all their fault either. It's because lithium is now in high demand and in low supply. And this one is one of the few of its kind that is not only expandable, but it's actually modular, so you can edit it to where it can actually triple its input. When you get into this world and when you start learning more about them, you'll realize why this is in the background of most of the prepper channels you watch, because of the strengths. They purposely tried to make sure that it had everything and anything you could want in there. That is an amazing system, and it's also modular. As far as the X2, though, again, this is something that can be dual-linked. One thing that actually just worked out great for us when our power went out is when you hook this up to your fridge, this is a good use for it if you're not, using it currently, is you can actually have this plugged in and then plug your fridge into this. And then if you do lose power, if you've ever lost hundreds of dollars worth of groceries to having your power go off, this is cool because it's a UPS system. The second your power goes off, your fridge would then go over to this. And you can leave it there all the time plugged in and through this, and it's not using it's got the full battery, it's saved up, it's everything else, but it's actually grabbing power from your house. The second the power goes off, it then switches over to this. So it's a great use for it. If you already have one, think about if you have a space for it, put this and plug in your fridge and then plug it into the wall. You're still using the normal power, everything else, but when the power goes off, it will switch over to this and you won't lose all of that food. That's for just like a regular storm and you lose power. Most people here have had to throw away hundreds of dollars of food and probably $10 dozen eggs. So again, if you don't want that, get something like this. Marfooglenews.com/energy. Right now, there's not only huge discounts through our code, but again, this is something that you definitely want to get your name on the list and get yourself one. They're built like tanks. They are literally one of the highest quality solar generator companies out there. It is an investment, but these will also save your butt in any kind of power down, grid down scenario. Marfooglenews.com/energy. Again, recommend them highly. All right, and then Dex, go ahead.
The link you're looking for is in Screener.
Oh, okay. Thank you. So I'm going to pull this up, and so this is the document that we were talking about, and this has, let's see, check this out. When we saw this, I'll have the date here in a second. We thought, what the heck? Okay, so this was the science and technology. This was the DHS announces SBR pre-solicitation. Okay, so mainly it doesn't look like anything too special. It says the Department of Homeland Security program released 11 topics for new small business innovation research, right? It said during this period, small businesses can review topics and ask clarifying technical questions, blah, blah, blah. Topics span a broad range of homeland security needs that give small businesses the opportunity to partner with DHS and turn their ideas into effective solutions. Excuse me. Check this list out, though. And if you were here for this again, you probably already know, but this, for anybody that's new, this needs to be looked at. It said, and this was put out, and it was like 3 weeks before the deadline. It said full topic descriptions for the titles listed below can be viewed at blah, 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 .gov. Technical questions should be directed at this, and it says that small businesses have until 5 p.m. Eastern on December 14th, 2021. So they had this like very short window. And it said the DHS topics in the 22.1 pre-solicitation: automated artificial intelligence distress alerts and monitoring. So I just want to point out why you would need that. Dex, why would you need an automated artificial intelligence distress alert? Maybe because a human isn't there to push the button? Does that sound
Exactly.
right? Yeah. So maybe if somebody's not there to actually put out these cell phone alerts to you and tell you that there's an emergency or communication's been cut off, you do it regionally and you make sure that they have a system that would basically start all on its own, right? Rapidly deployable countermeasures at protected perimeters and structures. Do you guys realize what that is? Rapidly deployable checkpoints. And movable, basically be able to transport these things real quick. Set up a perimeter and set up checkpoints like that. Non-invasive real-time detection of counterfeit electronics. Now, this one got a lot of buzz because people thought, oh, what if you had something that, was inside you that was a micro electronic, and they would have some sort of detector and go, that's fake. You can obviously tell where that would fit into where all of our mindsets were at last year when everybody was being told to do something certain. And then broadband push-to-talk interoperability platform. Again, this was a broadband without cell phone towers, being able to talk to each other without that interoperability platform. A step towards agent-agnostic detection of biological hazards. Streamlined airport checkpoint screening for limited mobility passengers. A mass fatality tracking system. Remember, military in our group said, we actually already have one of those. So why did they need another, or why did they need to better it? And then next generation semiconductor-based spectroscopic personal radiation detectors. Personal radiation detectors. And then field forward diagnostics for select agent list toxins. Basically, I believe that's something that they can have in the field and detect something horrible, right? Would that be right? Field forward diagnostics for select agent list toxins. So if you're trying to get if you find ricin or something, you can, a police officer would have a kit that could test it, right? Would that be about right?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Or diagnostics to test if somebody's been hit with that.
Very, very good. A wearable detector for aerosolized chemical threats. So you have a device on you, say on your gear or on your uniform that goes beep, 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 something's here. And then from port side to pen side, low cost detection / diagnostic for high consequence transboundary or nationally reportable animal diseases, particularly those with zoonotic propensity. Zoonotic propensity being something that travels from bird to human, penguin to human, mink to human, whatever it may be. You see why? And then we're given a very short window, and they said we need all of this stuff right now. And if you take one of those, it's kind of weird. If you take all of them, it kind of paints a picture, does it not? So those were official documents. We'll link those on the website. Again, it's kind of freaky when you think about all of them together. And the charges with this whole thing, it says FBI said Brandon Russell, who helped found Atomwaffen in 2015, was arrested in Florida after spending 4 years in prison for possessing boom making materials. The woman, Sarah Beth Clandil, was arrested in Maryland, where she also spent time in prison for armed robbery. Guided by Russell, Clandaniel and had planned to acquire a bang and attack 5 electrical substations around Baltimore, Maryland, the FBI said. Now remember, this is, who knows if these are patsies or if they're just part of a very big thing that's going on right now. We, of course, locally here in Washington, Oregon, and in California, we have had all of these weird events. Last being the LAX TSA being halted because all the power went out. Super weird things going on here, and all of them are happening to our grid. Now, North Carolina, South Carolina, you, of course, now have East Coast things going on. Remember, you only need to hit 9 of the substations to knock out our entire grid. And those 9 have been identified by FERC and NERC, and those documents were accessed by SolarWinds Hack. In fact, our Black Start program that actually accessed our plan as the U.S., if our grid was to go down for any reason, our entire, plan, the thing that we put together over years and years and years to recover from an 18-month, grid down scenario. That plan was accessed specifically when somebody went into SolarWinds. SolarWinds, being the largest cyber hack of all time, went into all of the military branches, including the Space Force, and went into the 500 top corporations in the world and got information of all sorts. They also accessed all sorts of weird and very specific areas, including Black Start, our plan, if everything went down, how we would start to rebuild. If they know the plan to rebuild, they can also, after they knock our grid down, they can also knock down step 1, step 2, step 3 for us to rebuild it so they can keep the power out and keep the power down or delay it. So this is something where everybody's going to possibly say, oh, it's just a distraction, or it's this, or they're setting us up for something. Whether they are or not, I would say be prepared as if this is real, because it's better to be that way than to not be prepared for a situation like this. Remember, you won't have much time after the grid goes down. If the whole grid goes down here in the US, UK, anywhere else, you're not going to have much time before you have to figure out if you're going to bug in, bug out, and what you're going to end up doing. So just a word of advice. And then Dex, do you want to talk about the Oogs unveiling its ChatGPT rival?
Well, we've told everybody how much they've been shaking in their boots since ChatGPT came out, and now they're rushing to market to bring out their version of an equivalent system, and it's going to be called Bard, B-A-R-D. I don't know where the name comes from. It's a tool dubbed Bard, and it's not out yet. It's out in the sense that they're announcing it today. They're doing some limited testing with some, as they call it, friendly testers. But they're hoping to open it up shortly to the public. And then I think in the longer form post that the OOG put out, it was also along the lines of saying that this will probably end up in search at some point, where they expect to see this AI technology helping you with your search. So when you're searching for something, it can help you solve larger problems, not just simple searches, but a lot of times people are actually looking for answers that are very complex. And if it can help, if they can use this AI chatbot to help people find the information and distill the information that may typically come up in multiple pages of search results, that's what they're going to try and do. So interesting. We're going to see this stuff continue to evolve. Obviously, they've been spending a ton of money on this for years. They just never really brought any of it to market. They've done a few tests in the past that we've talked about, and things that have come out and instantly got had problems with. So we'll see how this plays out. But ChatGPT making its big debut and being so successful is obviously throwing the rest of these tech guys on their heels.
And I looked up the meaning of Bard. I thought immediately of Bard's Tale. Somebody mentioned Shakespeare, and I thought maybe they were referencing like what Bard meant. But it says one of an ancient Celtic order of minstrel poets who composed and recited verses celebrating the legendary exploits of chieftains and heroes. A poet, especially a lyric poet, or a piece of armor used to protect an ornament ornament a horse. So I'm sure there's meaning to the whole Bard thing, because they're going to say it's ChatGPT, so it's going to write and do all this stuff. The fact that you not only have the ChatGPT thing, which has just exploded, and now this is going to change the world, and I don't think it's in a good way. I hate to say it, but Elon Musk, again, there's been clips of him talking about the whole AI, how he went in front of Congress and the president and all this, and who knows if he's really on our side or not, or on again, the general side of not wanting AI. But he said that he tried to warn Congress and the president about AI and the dangers of it, and they just kind of poo-pooed him off. You've got the W and the E and the F saying in the future, you'll own nothing and be happy. At the same time, Zuckerberg and all these connected people are making this metaverse and this virtual world. At the same time, over the last couple of years, we were locked down and basically kept in the confines of our home. Things absolutely took off, like Amazon and things like this, that basically had us in our little jail cells at home, and we would just get everything so convenient. As far as this goes, the jobs that it would replace, and now that you have competing and this going back and forth, You've gotten to the point where I don't think most people have really seen this stuff in work. Think about taking anyone, any celebrity, getting their voice within 3 seconds. We covered that. They could take a celebrity voice and then create it over again. We're already seeing the results of how this could be used for bad. So this is, and then replacing jobs left and right, even replacing coding all in general. If you think that your 17-year-old kid and you're telling them, hey, get into coding, those are the good jobs, in 10 years, they probably won't be. In fact, they'll be replaced by, Bard or some other service where those companies will not even hire a single person to do coding. That's because these things are they just got released and they already have this kind of capability. This is not going anywhere good. Not for workers, at least, not for jobs. All right, and then we're going to have to fly through some of these, but these are pretty important. Canada deploys military aircraft over Haiti to disrupt the gangs. Now, some of you may have seen the videos of the actual, what a lot of people are very confused on what barbecue is and his, it's kind of funky because there has been some interviews that actually went into his little zone. He doesn't rule all of Haiti. There's a lot of misconceptions out there. He rules an area of Haiti, and there's neighborhood gangs, and he actually has rival gangs. And if he crosses, say, an alleyway, he'll get popped in the face. But he is one of the more powerful gangs, and it just kind of puts you at where I don't think most know what is actually happening here. There are resources and things that the U.S. and other countries want. And I believe, Dex, isn't there lithium in Haiti? Isn't lithium one of their, or am I thinking of somewhere else? Do you remember talking about lithium in Haiti? I bet.
I think there is. I'm just looking real quickly. I think they have a $20 billion untouched mineral wealth. I don't know what that exact one is. That was back in 2012. They have iridium deposits.
Carol McLean says the ports, barbecue is in control of the ports. So I could see how that's what would make him the most powerful, is if you controlled the section with all of the ports and the goods going in and out. But somebody else said Redacted did a good piece on them today. Redacted was touching this when nobody else was, so they were doing a really great job on that. As far as there were potential U.S. forces and other NATO forces and UN forces there that no one was talking about. There were even, I believe at one point, there might have been tanks. But I think that there's a greater value here. The people there, obviously in some of these things, they say they actually like barbecue and they don't like the corrupt government. There's a lot of corrupt governments all around the world. What do you think? Let me know in the comments down below. And then Saudi Arabia said that they are now open to the idea of trading in currency beside the US dollar. Does this spell doom for the greenback? And then they tell you 3 reasons not to worry. They'll tell you not to worry until you are homeless. Let me just say that. Dex, they're straight up telling us the petrodollar is about to die. At least the U.S. petrodollar.
Yeah, but don't worry about it. It'll be fine. No, this is a big deal. It's a very big deal for those of us in America. For the rest of the world, it's even a big deal for the rest of the world, because it does mean there's going to be some sort of monumental shift in the monetary value system and potentially the entire system as a whole. So I would just, don't take this one with a grain of salt. Take this one with a lot of warning as we think about how the world would change if the U.S. dollar wasn't the foundation of most of the economic systems around the globe. So, and what that would mean to inflation, what that could mean to the value of the dollar that you have. And I know I'm speaking to lots of people that have dollars. I know there's plenty of people that watch too that are in other countries, and you've got your own currencies, but it's all relative in many ways. If the U.S. economy takes a tank, then the rest of the world's going down too at the same time. if not before. Actually, it's typically how it would happen. Everything would fall apart, and you would see the ripple effect then into the U.S. So this is a definite sign of the times, though, in my opinion, as far as like the shift that we're seeing about these countries, specifically those that are allied closely with Vlad or wanting to be allied more closely with those with either Vlad or Xi, and shifting the dollar spend away from the petrodollar and trying to take whether it be currency for oil or currency for other trade in some other form. And of course, if you're working with Vlad, you've got to find another form because he's disconnected from SWIFT, so he can't transfer USD. He can only transfer, either physical or other assets and other forms of digital currency.
So everything that people rumored for years and years is now slowly coming out, and of course they're about to change over the entire world. If the dollar and all of this kind of crumbles, and the petrodollar, which has run the world for all of this time, if they're changing over to other systems, which Saudi Arabia, again, we talked about this when they used to bring, our presidents, the U.S. president in with red carpet, treat them like kings and bring them in. They weren't even answering our calls. At the same time, Xi was going to their events and getting the full red carpet treatment. They're like, U.S. out, China in. I mean, like, it's pretty obvious that that there are multiple forces at work here, and we don't know what's truly going on, but it seems like it's pretty easy to see that the U.S. dollar is about to take a tumble. And that's just one of the catastrophic events that people are talking about. Again, sorry, it's doom and gloom, but unfortunately, that's what we're living in right now. And it's pretty hard to, it's at this point, it's hard to avoid it or to deny that things are about to get really, really bad. And then NK leader Kim Jong, that's like at the beginning, it will only be 2 weeks. Everybody knew it was going to be longer than 2 weeks. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un goes missing ahead of the military parade. Dex, do you want to give your view? If you want my opinion on this, just go over to Marfoogle News, over to our 30-minute short shareable video on this subject.
Well, we're about to find out what's.
Hold on, let me switch you over.
But
let me switch you over real quick. You just started going roboto. There we go. Okay, now go.
Yeah, we're about to find out what's going to happen as it relates to him. Has he really been in hiding? Was he sick? Is he potentially perished? But this parade's a big deal, so I have a sneaking suspicion he will come out. But we, maybe he's waiting for the parade, and he'll see his shadow, and we'll determine if winter will last longer in NK. I don't know. But he's obviously been out of public eye. It's kind of interesting because it seems like the last 2 or 3 pieces we've covered around NK had ministers speaking. Wasn't even his sister. Usually it's his sister. So I think that's been a little odd, which I thought was odd when it happened. But now that we were getting this information that he's actually been missing now for 35 days. Now, of course, he has been known to be in hiding. He always tries to travel in the dark, etc., just because he feels that he is targeted, and he rightfully is. By many other nations, and he's at fear of being taken out. Of course, he created a law saying that if anything does happen to him, they immediately launch all of their nukes in retaliation. So I think that was his way of trying to protect his longevity.
So something else could be happening right now. We don't know. So this is another reason to keep your head on a swivel. We don't know exactly what is happening with this, but it's something to pay attention to. All right, and then Dex, I'm going to switch you over while I can, and then if next time I think that the roboto should be gone. Okay, and let's see here. Okay, and then we have UN chief fears world headed for a wider war over UK conflict. There are comments like this almost on a daily basis at this point. And nobody wants to believe them. Because a lot of these comments, I think we're hardwired to be positive, I guess. I guess we're also hardwired to think of the people that are doom and gloom as negative as, pessimist, as, somebody who is crazy, who is, these nuts, these, fanatics, right? There's enough directions that this is coming in from to kind of, I think, to wake people up. UN Chief Antonio Guterres warned nations Monday that the likelihood of further escalation in the Vlad and UKR conflict means that the world is heading towards a wider war. It says the Secretary General laid out his priorities for the year in the gloomy speech to the United Nations General Assembly. So again, you cover that speech, it's like, it's him being gloomy. It's not, you could say, oh, well, he meant the end of the world is going to have rainbows and ponies at the end of the rainbow. It's all good. But unfortunately, if you cover it in reality, they're saying it's not getting better. It said that the United Nations General Assembly that focused on Vlad's invasion, the climate, and extreme poverty, it says we have started 2023 staring down the barrel of a confluence of challenges unlike any in our lifetime, he told diplomats in New York. Gutierrez noted that the top scientists and security experts had moved the doomsday clock to just 90 seconds to midnight last month, the closest it had ever been to signaling the annihilation of humanity. The Secretary General said that he was taking it as a warning sign. We need to wake up and get to work, he implored, as he listed his urgent issues. Top of the list was Vlad's conflict in UKR, which is approaching its 1-year anniversary. I also keep in mind that maybe him or somebody else, all of these other really, really top-tier people, maybe know something that we don't. And that's just an assumption that they might get a heads up. Just to fit this in here, I know that they had a reasonable explanation for that glitch that happened to the New York Stock Exchange, but just about a week ago, after the nationwide grounding of all of our planes, the biggest grounding since 9/11, happened because of a glitch, and you had the banks have a glitch, and you had all of these different glitches happening after Russia said that we were targets now because we've basically agreed to do the tank thing and all of this. During that, the New York Stock Exchange had a glitch, and I covered that. And by the time I covered it at night, I covered it in a cell phone video that was just kind of updating what happened. They changed and edited the story, and they corrected it, or they updated it. But when I covered it, if you watch the cell phone video of when I covered it compared to the nighttime story, the same exact link, they edited and changed it. And they took out one part that was kind of freaky to me. They said that it appeared that there were large movements of stocks being moved, and it affected how the prices were and all of this. And they said they shut it down. Then they spun and said something, and now it's reasonable that it was just a glitch, and that's what it appeared to be, right? But at one point, they specifically said that it appeared that there were large amounts of stocks being moved, so abnormally large that they shut down NYSE. Just, yeah, if just hypothetically say that there was some spinning there, or editing, or updating very prosperously. I don't think that's a word you can use here, but again, what if they did get a heads up? A bunch of people at the very top got a heads up, and they just started dumping stocks, or they started moving stocks, and then they came up with this whole reason to say why they needed to shut it down. And by the way, a lot of those stocks did get through, so things were sold. There were some big movements. I just question if they, whenever you see a whole lot of these top tier people sell on something, they usually know when something is coming. We've seen it before CV. We know. Nobody got in trouble for this. But before CV and before the announcement of one of the variants, all of a sudden all these politicians sold all of their stocks or bought stocks or something. It was one of the other. And it was right before. And then there was questions about how they were in these top secret meetings talking about how this was about to get really bad. And they ended up selling certain stocks and buying other ones and doing all this. And they wanted to call it insider trading because they had information no one else had. Of course, I don't think any of them got in trouble. Not one of them. They said technically they can, right? I wonder if that is happening again. And when we see things like that, I would just say pay attention to everything, even if maybe it was a glitch. Again, I'm not an expert in that area, but again, very weird stuff is going on. And it says the prospects for peace keep diminishing. The chances of further escalation and bloodshed keep growing. I fear the world is not sleepwalking into a wider war. I fear that it is doing so with its eyes wide open. So he's saying that he doesn't even think that people are like, don't even know. People are knowingly going into a wider conflict. But who knows? This guy's UN. He's up there too. It says if every country fulfilled its obligation under the UN Charter, the right peace would be guaranteed. It says it's time to transform our approach to peace by recommitting to the Charter, putting human rights and dignity first with prevention at the heart. So something's going on here. All right, and then before we move on, real quick, if you don't have extra food around the house, highly recommend going over and checking out marfooglenews.com/prep. It's an affordable resource for you to get yourself 25-year shelf life food at a really affordable price. The 3-month plan is $200 off. It's the largest discount they've ever given. If you've been waiting or saving up for it, definitely would get that. We don't know how long that will actually last. It did go back down, and they actually subtracted it last time. It got up anywhere close. And now it's been going for over a month. So again, go over to marfooglenews.com/prep. And that is, again, $200 off on the 3-month supply. It comes with everything you need, freeze-dried foods in Mylar packaged bags that are then sealed into buckets. You can also get less than that as well. They have the 1-month supply. They have all sorts of other kits. They even have a 3-day supply that you can put in your go bag. Again, that is food that essentially add water and the food comes back to life. And that could even be in 2053. So again, that's 25 years from now, you could still have that same food. And in 3 years from now, if it triples in price like it has in the last 3 years, again, you would have 22 years left on the shelf, and you would not have to pay 3 times the price. You can also get the Alexa Pure Pro. You're going to need something like a water filtration device if anything happens for more than a few days. If we lose power for long extended periods, then it's definitely smart to get a really good water filtration system. The Alexa Pure is a large system, and it can do a whole lot gravity-fed filtration at one time. That way you can use it for showering or for drinking or for doing whatever, making that water potable. All right, that's marfooglenews.com/prep. That also helps us, and you get giant discounts, especially on that 3-month plan. All right, and then Dex, Vlad prepares large-scale offensive in the next 10 days.
So this is a report coming out of the Financial Times. It's coming from an unnamed advisor in UKR on the armed forces. I think they may have the date a little off, only because we've had so much additional intel that talks specifically around the anniversary, which is coming up on the 24th of this month. So it's a little further than 10 days out, but it could very well start in 10 days. As they're predicting. We don't normally throw dates around, but that's what this intel is coming from that's being reported. This is the large scale escalation that we've been talking about. We've talked and covered quite a bit about the movement of the troops, the estimates anywhere from 300,000 to 500,000 additional troops were being added. That was from the previous conscriptions that were going on that were many months ago. So now they've gone through their training process. I know they went through a handful of them up front and just basically threw them to the wolves, so to speak, but the rest they were training. I don't know if that's enough time, but we shall see. It's definitely expected to see a push from, the north, as well as maybe other areas that might be a little out of the norm, but I would think more we're going to probably see a push towards Kiev again, which would come from the north, from Russia's border, as well as Belarus. The real question I think that's going to be interesting to see is if this is a large escalation, does Belarus actually join in? They've said in the past that they weren't. They were just providing, support for bases and things like that. But they did have their own version of a red line in which if it was crossed, they would enter. So that'll be telling if they're just used as a transitory country, or if they're going to be used actually bring their own forces in this time. Time will tell if this actually pans out, but they're saying 10 days. Of course, we've been reporting a lot of the other intel was saying the 24th.
Andrea VB says, and anyone watched BP Earthwatch channels this concerning the Terminator tanks? Woo, watch out. Well, the Terminator tanks, which I believe are the T-90s, are they're really, those are the top of the line tanks. And there were very little of those used in the very first year of this conflict. They were using their T-60, T-70, T-80 tanks, which the T-60s, I think, are the oldest. Those go back to like World War II. So if they are using the big stuff now, this is where we're going to see it really get crazy. And if it gets crazy, that means that the West and NATO is going to be asked for more and more stuff, therefore becoming more of a target for Vlad. Hopefully this is all closed door meetings and everything is all meant to be. But if you realize that they don't care about us, they don't care if we perish, then we could be part of the disaster that pushes the narrative along, and real people will perish. That's just the unfortunate thing about this. On the 9th, the general SVR thing that came out said on the 18th that the general mobilization would start. The first 2 weeks would be covert, and then that there was going to be some big event alongside the 1-year anniversary. Now, if that's a Fantastic Freddy, that's also an option, but it sounds like something big is going to happen either way. If that Fantastic Freddy is what gets us into this conflict, that would also make a lot of sense if it's going alongside what's happening right now. And then the U.S. shows loading of over 60 Bradley IFVs for delivery to UKR. This looks exactly like the train that we showed you video of that were being moved all around, and they were the same color as what we showed on that video. So maybe that video that Foogle fam actually took, that was possibly the tanks that were headed out for UKR. And those tanks, those same ones, might be in the next WW3. It says that footage in the command's tweet shows the loading of a batch of several dozen fighting vehicles into a ship in the port of Charleston, South Carolina. Currently, UKR soldiers are undergoing training on Bradley IFVs in Germany. The United States, again, it said the Pentagon later specified that Kiev is getting the Bradley M2A2 ODS variant, which was developed in the wake of Operation Desert Storm and includes a range of improvements to the vehicle's navigation and target acquisition systems. U.S. Department of Defense spokesman Pat Ryder described the Bradley as a tank killer. So that's what's going there right now, and now they're saying they're being loaded up. So it would make sense if there's going to be some sort of big, escalation of this. And then UKR's defense ministry in turmoil as Russia readies offensive. They basically said that UKR showed confusion on Monday about whether the defense ministry would be replaced. The defense minister, which I believed, again, was part of this whole thing. It says the questions over Defense Minister Oleksiy Reznikov were first public sign of serious disarray in UKR's wartime leadership. A day after announcing that Reznikov would be sidelined, a top ally of President Vladimir appeared to row back, saying no changes would be made this week. David Akamia, chief of the parliamentary bloc of Zelensky's party, said that the 37-year-old head of military intelligence, Budanov, would replace Reznikov, who could become Minister of Strategic Industries. Says, but Zelensky remains silent, while Reznikov said on Sunday he had heard nothing. The confusion caps a 2-week crackdown on alleged wrongdoing, official wrongdoing, UKR's biggest political and administrative shakeup since Vlad invaded. Remember that there were essentially some of the top guys had not only like Ferraris sitting in their garages, but mansions, and a lot of this money that was being sent over, apparently everyone besides the president himself, Vlad, was involved. His right-hand man, of course, he was participating in the Ferraris and the beach house parties while everybody else is perishing on the front lines. But I'm sure that there was a degree of separation there. The president wasn't involved. They, shook hands on a daily basis, but I'm sure it was totally like, oh, he's bad, good. The guy has a profile picture on people's Facebook. He can't be bad, right? He can't be scanned. And head of an Orthodox church was a spy for the KGB. Dex, do you want to cover this? This is kind of wild.
Wow. So this is it's kind of interesting. So the head of the church there, kind of like the equivalent to the pontiff in Rome, it turns out, according to Swiss records, that he was a spy for the KGB in the 70s. So kind of interesting if you think about how the leaders are infiltrated or potentially infiltrated. Yeah, sometimes they come from interesting backgrounds as well, but a lot of times people put a lot of conspiracy into that and think, oh, they must have been placed here, they must be controlled, or, well, in this case it kind of looks that way, right? It kind of has that interesting realm of possibility here, since he was involved in that three-letter organization and now is the head of the entire religion there. So I know a lot of people think a lot of other people in high places, including the pontiff and others, are placed there and are put in for various reasons. So this kind of fuels that thought process.
Yeah, there's so many weird and odd things coming out during conflict time. It's nuts. And then a group of UKR special forces active in Russia. UKR special forces are acting outside UKR border and striking at Russia's in its own territory, the Guardian reports. The news agency reports that it has spoken to 3 UKR special forces soldiers, 23-year-old Taras, 21-year-old Vladislav, and Commander 39-year-old Alexei. And it says the military says that in the case of the worst happens, the UKR government will deny any knowledge of them. They're like ghosts. Guardian notes that they are members of the Brotherhood Battalion, a volunteer group of UKR special forces fighting Vlad deep in Vlad's country. Their work ranges from the kidnapping of senior Kremlin officials to the destruction of key military infrastructure and downing of enemy aircraft on Vlad's territory. One of their soldiers, Vladislav, says that he and they are telling this publicly so that Vlad and the invaders know that it is very easy for us, UKR soldiers, to cross the Vladian border. It says the, quote, Brotherhood insists that it is vital for the Russian high command to feel the heat of the battle on its own territory. They say that it's technically independent from UKR's army, but operating side by side with the official forces. Most people are going to look at this and go, okay, this is not good. They're in Vlad's country doing damage, and this escalates things and everything else. But also, the things that come up in your head when you think of the Brotherhood, not good things, at least not here. Maybe it's just cultural, right? And we haven't mentioned in a while. Real quick, just go over and check out Off-Grid. Off-Grid now has Off-Grid wallets that turn into actual Faraday bags for your phone. It's a trifold wallet that can actually turn into a Faraday bag. Go to marfoogle.com/offgrid. Use the code Marfoogle to save and to support. And then, of course, they have the bags, Faraday bags, and they have backpacks with pockets for all of your electronics so you don't be tracked or traced, or your electronics won't be affected during really, really freaky events. And then strange, unprecedented vortex spotted around the sun's north pole. What? Again, well, I would love Wages World's opinion on this. Maybe we'll have him on the next show and see what he thinks about this. Huge filament of solar plasma has broken off the sun's surface and is circling the North Pole like a vortex of powerful winds, but scientists have no clue what caused it. Talk about polar vortex. Material from a northern prominence just broke away from the main filament and is now circulating in a massive polar vortex around the north pole of our star. Space weather forecaster Tamitha Skov said on Twitter while sharing a video sequence taken by NASA's Solar Dynamics Observatory showing the odd whirlwind. Implications for understanding the sun's atmospheric dynamics above 55 degrees cannot be overstated. Other solar physicists have shared Skov's excitement about the unusual phenomena, but what exactly is it and why it's important? Dex, do you want to go over what they think it is? And again, this is supposedly happening over a certain amount of time and could be some pretty weird stuff.
Well, I did get a chance to talk to Wages about it briefly, and he was very excited about this phenomenon that's happening. But they don't really know what's going on. There's a lot of strange things going on right now with the sun because of the cycles we're in. Yeah, it'd be good. Let's get him on maybe this week and get more explanation of this as they get more of the data that comes out. But it's basically like this giant solar tornado that's just sort of, swirling around. I believe there may have even been another object that had gone by at that time. I remember there was a recent comet that hit the divers and all the stuff that go into the sun or go by the sun, and they can catch that. There was one that was going by at the same time that this plasma was getting pulled out in the same direction. So there may be more to come on this as we can get more data and more intel. But it's kind of an interesting event. It's just not something they see all the time.
No, and with this, Brian Knight said it's a sign of the sun's core stopping. I sure hope not. But again, we'll most likely have Wages on and have him explain what he finds, because he's always looking at all of the different data that comes out of this. And then, in general, as somebody who's not an expert on sun stuff, a polar vortex obviously sounds freaky. We'll see if it truly is of course, very, very soon. So, by the way, thank you, everybody that popped in on DLive. I thank you guys, and I appreciate you. Again, there was several people that popped in, and again, always Vicky K, thank you for your nightly stop by. Kimbria, Vault Music, thank you for the ice cream. Thank you, Nick Wicht, for doing the Marfia badge. Again, thank you for subbing over there on DLive. Michelle K, thank you for the diamond. Says, I think we crossed the border into insanity. I think the border security on that note has basically left their post for like 10 years. Cloud Farrell, Jew Man, Skyhouse, Phil Billy, the end is near. Love my Foogle fam, 5 years and counting, eyes wide open. Thank you. And then, of course, Sam Quiggs, thank you so much for your support over on DLive. To everybody else in the chat, Scrappy Dabby Doo, Sharon Crawford, Just Ruth, Bones, thank you for being here tonight. Bones and others are going to try to call, and then other folks are going to try to call who they know as far as find out more information about this. So there is some pretty big things being said. And the alarming thing is a couple of them we thought, oh, is this person reliable? And then as we were looking into more and more of it, more and more people started coming forward. And there's several Foogle family members. Either they work with DHS or DOD in some fashion administratively. Some have family, wives, husbands, cousins. They're all saying the same thing. In the last 4.5 days, there has been memos going out saying that we need to up production, some in the cases of 1,000%. We need to cut deadlines from the 2030s to the 20 nows, and that they need to get ready because their superiors are telling them it's time that we're about to get ready to go to war. Take it with a cup of salt if you want. But if you look at the bigger picture, there's a lot going on right now. And if you look at what the elites are doing, they're getting prepared for it. So why aren't we? The government, the military, and the richest folks in the world are getting ready for a disaster very, very, very obviously. From building bunkers under each one of their $1 million mansions, $1 billion mansions, or $1 million isn't even a mansion anymore. That's like a shack here in Seattle. But Again, they're all building these bunkers. They're all trying to get tickets on a rocket off Earth. They're trying to be a part of Asgardia. At the same time, most folks are told that it's crazy to prepare. It's taboo to prepare. You're not. You're part of a certain faction or a side if you are a prepper. It's stupid. We have preppers on the left. We have preppers on the right. We have preppers that are just right. I don't know why I felt like doing the spiral dance, but it just seems that we have a Goldilocks of preppers here. So it's not a left or right thing. It is a responsible thing that a patriarch or matriarch of a family should be doing right now, especially with all of the big picture coming into focus. And I do feel like that's what's happening. It's coming into focus, and it's starting to become really clear. And the people that have been here for 5 years, like some of you have said, is it not coming clear that it's like the pieces are falling into place, and it's a puzzle that nobody wanted to be solved. So, Dex, let's go over the web only. And again, we had so much tonight that I don't know. Probably just hit the headlines real quick.
Yeah, there's quite a bit. So go to marfooglenews.com, click on the thumbnail for the show, or open up that show notes link. It's in the description on YouTube and Rumble. You'll get the rest of the story. It's everything right here under this yellow bar. It says overflow. If you missed it, there was a very unholy performance at the Grammys. If you want to know what happened there with the Sam Smith and Kim Petras and their interpretation of the devil, so to speak, kind of crazy. That's there. We've got additional updates to the quake. We also have additional updates to what was going on with the balloon. And also we have additional updates to everything that's going on with UKR. There's a lot of other stories we just couldn't get to that are all in here. Just a lot of updates around with Poland putting up an electronic barrier for their entire border. A certain armed forces senior official being charged with high treason. The defense minister saying they're getting aircrafts, but not saying which ones. So all of that's there. The updates with the new tanks that are coming in, not just the U.S. ones, but the other ones. The balloon that was taken down, there was an interesting story about the naming that was going on with the call signs of those F-22 fighters in reference to old warplanes. It was kind of interesting. So take a look at that. That and so much more. There's a lot. There's a whole political coverage there as well. All of it's a lot of information we just couldn't get to. It's all right there. I didn't give you just scratch the surface. It's probably twice as much as I already told you on the website. So go check it out. marfooglenews.com. Click on the thumbnail for the show or open up that show notes link in the description on YouTube or Rumble.
I want to point out one of these stories about the how they renamed the F-22 that took down the surveillance plane. You know, they must think about this kind of stuff. Like, is this going to go down in history? Is this balloon going to be a bigger part of history when we find out what it might have been? Or will it be nothing and a big distraction? But the fact that they had a reference to some sort of heroic pilot from World War I, what is that story there? Maybe Joseph Newhouse or somebody else can look at the story behind the Frank 01, and it's an apparent homage to a heroic pilot from World War I. Did this have more significance? Taking this balloon down, was this a bigger deal than we think? Is it the start of something? Are movements being put into place right now? What I will say is join me over on Twitter at Marfoogle. There's some videos that I shared. Susan Donahue actually shared a really great video of the San Diego helicopters. Really, really great tweet. I shared that over there. San Diego, Miami, apparently in the main city in Arizona just had stuff. Seattle, supposedly, I said that I don't know how many months ago, maybe it was a year ago, we had our low-flying helicopters. Apparently they're saying that might be happening as short as like 3 or 4 days ago. You have possible stuff going on in Boston. You have possible stuff going on in, even off of Rhode Island. So what the heck is going on with these helicopters flying super low, doing nighttime drills, all blacked out, no lights on. Some of them, they don't have their transponders on. So what the heck is happening? Let us know in the comments down below. Thank your mods like Bones, Ilea, Trinity, CJ Blaze, and everybody else that made it tonight. Wages World, thank you so much for being here. Thank you, everybody that made it here to the show, to the live show. And then if you're watching the replay, please let me know in the comments down below that you made it to the replay. Again, thank you guys. Love you. And again, thank you. Dex, thank you for your service tonight.
Great job. Much love, brother.
All right, you guys, it's now time for the shoutro. It's not an outro. It's not a shout-out. It's a shoutro. It's where I say thank you to the people that matter most. Appreciate all of the support tonight. Thank you, everybody, over on YouTube. And again, a few really stuck out. Thank you so much. Marky Sparky. Thank you, Zenwin AZ. Much love. Marf Dex Mods and Beautiful Foogle Fam. Carol McLean says, thank you. You're great. And for Love of Country 1 says, missed you guys. Hey, thank you. You didn't have to do that, especially you supported during the live show on Marfoogle News. Missed you guys, just catching up now. Crazy times. Yes, very crazy. Thank you so much for supporting Independent. Carol McLean, Marky Sparky, Celtic Warrior, Stephen McMahon, Blissfully Leia, Carol McLean, Lola Cafe, Ilea, and you were right about white noise last show. Thank you. Love you guys. Be safe. Be prepared. Marf out. Boom. Don't let him go. Don't let him go. Don't let him go. Don't let him go. Jesus, go. Jesus, don't let him go. Don't let him go. What happens next? A button in the box in the back of my and everybody knows. Let's do a new one for Love of Country 1. No.